Thank you, Representative. Further discussion? Representative Hurd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
Colleagues, I'm going to start off with, I'm opposed to this legislation because there is a better way. But the consequences of this bill are layoffs, lost hours, rising costs for all our neighbors. This isn't hypothetical. There will be real impacts to real people. I've spent countless hours this week working on this issue and researching it to have the facts before me the best I could compile to come up with the conclusion I've arrived at, which is the same one I had when it came out of committee. I'm still no on this bill. I have right here in my hands the legislative fiscal report. I've spent a lot of time trying to read through this and understand what I see as an unbiased source of information says about what we are about to pass here possibly. I was going to talk about the K through 12 system impacts as well as the university system impacts, but two of our colleagues have already covered that, so I won't be repetitive. I do want to read, however, two portions that I have highlighted here in the fiscal report. First one is indirect costs to state government. It is possible that costs associated with an increase in the minimum wage may result in providers of goods and services increasing their rates and prices to consumers, including state government. While these costs and related price increases are indeterminate, this issue has been raised by a number of agencies across all program areas. It has also been noted that it is possible to that a change in the minimum wage, this is important, could trigger some immediate contract renegotiations. Those are unknown costs that we are not talking about. This bill has not been properly vetted through the Ways and Means process. We brought it up in the Business and Labor Committee. I'm bringing it up again to those of you who actually care enough about this issue to be sitting right here on the chamber listening to me. You know that the representative from House District 2, myself, rarely speaks on this floor, and I never speak on anything that I am not very passionate about. For example, a number of school districts indicated that they have contracts that included an essential escalator clause, which is triggered if the contractor incurs a significant change in operation costs. And then secondly, the other portion here is all other local government from the fiscal report. Little data has been gathered on the effect of an increase in the minimum wage on local governments. Well, that's troubling to me. So, since we would not allow, meaning the legislature, LFO the proper time to actually come up with those numbers, I went doing some digging myself. But I'll start with this as I go into that. There seems, friends, to be an environment in this chamber and in this building that suggests that private businesses are never concerned about anything but their profit margins, so they can't be relied on to give accurate estimates or warnings for legislation such as this. I adamantly disagree with that environment, but that has been my experience here. So, I have been left with the assumption that government is the solution to all things, and that for some reason we believe that just because it's government and not a profit-seeking individual or company, they can be trusted to give us accurate, unbiased, non-self-interest information. So, who would that be, since LFO was not given proper time to find that information? Well, that's the county commissioners across this entire state. Good people, elected by the people, closely affiliated with the people. I tell my folks back in Douglas County all the time, even though you three are of a like mind in the decision making you think you should push forward to make the county the best you can, and I am in a much different situation far from home, I don't envy you because you have such a difficult task to deal with impossible budget situations right now. The lack of federal access to federal land so that we can pursue what was promised to us in the O&C counties from timber receipts has made our communities fade away to a former shell of their once glorious self. I am witness to those events. And part of it is that when you have certain factions of your community that, for whatever reason, doesn't think you can do anything right, they are right there at the front door of the county commissioners to beat on them about those issues. So I see them as being much more involved with the daily pulse of their community. So I'm going to just show you a few letters here. I have a letter from the
Representative, one moment, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Representative Krieger yields his time. Please continue.
Thank you, Representative. I have a letter here from the Klamath County Commissioners expressing their sincere disapproval of this legislation and showing some of the fiscal impacts. I find those to be reliable because they have a much smaller scope and a smaller amount of people to keep track of. Thus, they can do the math and come up with what they need to project. I have one from Yamhill County's Board of Commissioners, same sentiment. One from Wasco County, same sentiment. One from Lynn County, very upset. But I'm going to read the final two. One is close to home and the other is home. Coos County. This is from the Coos County Board of Commissioners, signed by them. And I'm asking you to listen to this information. In Coos County, so it says, "Dear legislators, in Coos County, increasing the minimum wage would decrease public services to our citizen. Decrease public services, especially direct services that they depend on. For example, Coos County libraries, very important issue for a lot of us on Subways and Means. We've listened to the state librarian come in and talk to us about budget issues, so this is a big deal to them and to me. Coos County libraries would be forced to either cut hours of services or cut services such as books by mail for our disabled citizens. It would cause wage compression, driving up costs for services that the public relies on, such as sheriff patrols. That's a massive issue in my neighborhood. Jail beds, county parks, road maintenance, just to name a few. For all these reasons, Coos County opposes any minimum wage legislation in this session. We will challenge any minimum wage legislation that is unfunded, that is an unfunded mandate in violation of Article 11, Section 15 of the Oregon Constitution, unless funding is provided to ease the impacts of the increase. We respectfully request that you forego any action on minimum wage package during this 2016 legislative session. Finally, Douglas County. This is my home area. Douglas County estimates if the minimum wage is increased to $12.50, which is the tier they are located in, the annual fiscal impact will be at least $199,150 annually. May not sound like a lot of money to us, but I'll explain why that's a huge amount of money back there. We are not in a financial position to pay the increased costs associated with the proposed legislation of the minimum wage program. Douglas County would be faced with the real issue of compression, where the argument could be made by the employee or their union that the pay increases for all classifications should be proportional to the pay increases made at the lower classifications. If that were to happen, the overall cost of the minimum wage increases would be significantly higher, significant, much more significant than the $200,000 annually that they referenced. But we're not willing to take the time to deal with doing the hard work and the math to allow LFO to do their job. So they give me 5 different areas where that $200,000 would really hit hard at home, and it's a pick one or the other. A 37% decrease to public health and the ability to provide needed services. That's a big deal. 90% elimination of the museum. You might as well just close the door, folks. Elimination of the veterans or senior service programs in entirety. What are we doing here? These are real people who are not concerned at all about profits. They have one job as the CEOs of their respective communities. And that is to take the money that is a fixed income based on property taxes in their areas and allocate it properly to fulfill the services needed by the citizens of their community. And we are stripping them again of that ability. A reduction in the amount of library services by 20%. And then finally, loss of 2 permanent sheriff deputies. Curry County has 5 on staff right now. That's not nearly enough for the small town of Winston that I live in, let alone a massive landmass county. In closing, this bill desperately needs to be sent to the Ways and Means for further research and changes, desperately. I believe, even though I've only been here 1 year, I believe the history of this legislative body commands us that we must do so. And a failure to send this to Ways and Means is cheating the process. And it's cheating the people. Think on that.